Welcome to EPG Pathshala. Now I will discuss the module entitled Political Participation as a Tool for Women Empowerment. Before coming to the actual theme of women empowerment, let us understand what we mean by empowerment. Empowerment is basically the power to assess, power to have control and to make informed choices. Empowerment is very crucial for the marginalized section so that they can be the part of the mainstream, and if their empowerment will not be made, then the dominating class, the elite class will make their influence, and the benefits or scarce resources which should be allocated for them, that will be totally monopolized by the dominating section. Let us come to women empowerment. What we mean by that is basically empowering a woman. It is a very long journey. If we see at Indian context, we can see that initially in 1970s it is the government is basically focused on the welfare programs. Then in 1980s it shifted to the development concept, and in 2001 they are focusing on empowerment project. So this through this journey we can see that during the independence struggle to the development, and after independence how the national politics is affected, and then we can trace this history to 73rd 74th amendment, and now we are not talking about just 33% reservation of women in legislative bodies, but also we can see that there are 50% reservation in some of the state legislature, and more than 50% reservation is in the issue. So it is very crucial that through empowerment a woman can have their development, the multi-dimensional development of women can be achieved at social level, their self-esteem, their self-respect and their positive self-acclamation can be done at economic level, the resources, they are politically they will be powerful, and also they will be economically independent, they have the capacity to decision making. At political level they will be the part of the decision making, they will be as a policy analyzer, can be the ministers, they can be the ambassadors, they can be the heads of some of the countries, and they can be the main decision makers. Similarly, at personal level they can lead their family, they can have a positive self-esteem, and they can positively contribute to the social development. So it is very important and very essential that politically they must be active, politically they through political participation they can achieve their aim of life, they can achieve benefit for their society, for their section, for their group, and also it will help simultaneously the development of the nation and international level worldwide. This empowerment can be seen at various levels. It gives autonomy, it gives the access to resources, it also economically make independent, and it's remove the restrictions posed upon women. So through empowerment they can be the part of the crucial politics, and it should not be mere tokenism, it should be in actually they must be the part of political culture, they must be actively participate, they must not be working in place of other, but they must be the actual decision makers, because through that they can be the part of the national politics, and they can actively participate, they can make crucial decisions, they can earn for their family, they can provide a positive contribution towards their society, they can be the part of their state development, they can nationally represent their specific region, and at international level also they will represent their country. So it is essential that political participation should work as a tool for women empowerment, and I have discussed the various models how they can be politically empowered, and before that I have discussed what is the meaning of empowerment, then how political participation is crucial, what is the relation between women empowerment and political participation. Then I have discussed some of the important illustrations and examples and how politically women are empowered, some of the examples from international spheres such as Angela Merkel, Aung San Suu Kyi, Benazir Bhutto, Khalida Zia, Hillary Clinton, and at national level we have Indira Gandhi and some of the CMs, Mayawati, Sushma Swaraj, and all of them are the example how women are being empowered. But then after we have to understand that how it is crucial and it should be made for the all section of the society, not only for women, because if women will be empowered, then the society, the whole family and the whole country and the at international peace will also be encouraged, and because they are the basic peace agent. So empowerment give rise to peace, that is the societal development. Participation as a tool. Political participation can be understood as action on the part of individuals which either directly or indirectly affect the authoritative allocation of scarce resources, either material or symbolic, in their community or between communities, either within or outside their society. Within a wide range of countries, there is uniformly high correlation between citizens' socio-economic resources and their psychological involvement with politics. That is, their interest in politics and their inclination to discuss political questions. But there is a much lower and more variable correlation between citizens' socio-economic resources and their actual physical participation. Conversely, particular groups may be largely excluded from the franchisee, like conscious objectors after the First World War in Britain, for instance, or women in Spain before 1977. Although the woman question has been figured as a political issue since the middle of the 19th century, the question of political significance of gender only became an issue in the study of politics in 1970s. It arose partly in the response to the women's studies movement, which first emerged as a part of women liberation movement which began in 1960s. Prior to that, the study of women and politics was not regarded as important enough to warrant any social attention. During the 1970s, these prevailing views were challenged, and our wide-ranging debates has been started, was generated, which continued throughout the 1980s. It has involved and also evolved from an initial and modest concern with mapping women's political behavior using traditional categories of analysis, the add woman and steer approach, to a challenging critique of the very basis of political science. Women have played a key role in the national liberation struggle and in the great political revolutions of modern times. There is a robust and growing women liberation movement in India. There are also data which indicate that women who are in paid employment, full or part-time, participate more frequently than full-time housewives. This suggests that where women are economically integrated, they are more likely to be politically integrated, a finding that has been replicated in number of countries. The Danish political scientist Drup Dahendrup studied the changes brought about when women become a sizable minority in the national legislature. She tested the notion that only when the minority of women in legislature reaches a certain size, the critical mass, the presence of women makes a difference. She hypothesized that one would expect to find 6 different kinds of changes in reactions to women politicians, in the performance and efficacy of the women politicians, in the political culture, in the political discourse, in policy, political decision making, in empowerment of women. Women should be able to act on strength of being women and not merely despite being women. Democracy and the constitution has provided women in most of the countries with political freedom and right to plan for their own future and pursue their own interest. According to the Jakarta Declaration, involvement of women in the political arena and decision making roles is an important tool for empowerment as well as monitoring standards of political performance. Now we will understand the concept of empowerment. Before coming to the theme of women empowerment, let us understand the concept of empowerment. Empowerment means to invest within power. Empowerment has become a frequently used and buzzword. If we can see that essentially it means decentralization of authority and power. In other words, giving voice to voiceless. Empowerment aims at getting participation of deprived section of people in decision making process. Unless capacity is built in this section, in reality the power is used by others rather than the section for which they are meant. Activists want government to empower poor people, including women, by legislative measures and welfare programs. Empowerment is the process by which disempowered or powerless people can change their circumstances and begin to have control over their lives. It results in a change in the balance of power, in the living condition and in its relationship. Now we will understand the correlation between women empowerment and political participation. Women empowerment means equal status of women and equal opportunities and freedom to develop herself. The focus of empowerment is equipping women to economically independent, self-reliant, have a positive self-esteem, to enable them to face any difficult situation, and they should be able to participate in the process of decision making. Women empowerment as a phenomena is not something new. It has been present throughout the history in almost all of the societies for various reasons. What is recent is the increasing realization and awareness. The recognition that empowering women is absolutely essential rather than significant for familiar, societal, national, international and whole development process and progress. The term women empowerment has become popular in the developmental field since 1980s. It is vividly recognized that women empowerment is essential for sustainable economic growth and reduction in poverty in developing countries. Empowering women has become a frequently cited goal of development interventions. Women empowerment is central to human development. Targeted actions aimed at empowering women and righting the gender inequalities in the social and economic sphere, as well as in terms of social and political rights, must be taken alongside efforts to engender the development process. The extent of women empowerment in a country is largely determined by three factors: economic, social and political identity. The term empowerment denotes women's increased control over their lives, bodies and environment. In discussion of women empowerment, emphasis is often placed on women's decision-making roles, their economic self-reliance and their legal rights to equal treatment, inheritance and protection against all forms of discrimination. The popular UNESCO slogan should be considered as an ideal for not only women empowerment but also development of women. Educate a man and you educate an individual. Educate a woman and you educate a family. It has been accepted that genuine commitment and efforts have to be made by each country at government, non-government and individuals level to work towards establishing women's empowerment as nationally and internationally discussed in UN World Conferences on Women and agreed upon in the Plan of Action. A general awareness of the exploitation of women on various fronts like social, cultural, political and economic fronts has led to a strong protest manifested in women's liberation movement which emerged in the United States since the early 1970s. Some prominent organizations associated with this movement were National Organization for Women, now Boston's Bread and Roses, Berkeley Women's Liberation Group, Women's Radical Action Project, Women's Equity Action League WHEEL, National Women Political Caucus NWPC and others. According to Peterson and Runyan, a gender-sensitive lens enables us to see how the world is shaped by gendered concepts, practices and institutions. Feminists assert that until the condition of equal participation of women in public life is fulfilled, the concept of citizenship cannot be brought to its logistic conclusion. In India, a beginning in this direction has been made by making reservation of one-third of seats in panchayat for women. This will encourage women to join politics at grassroots level. By and by, their representation at this level can be increased to one half, and provision can also be made for their adequate representation in legislative assemblies and parliament. The opening up of vast opportunities of higher education would prove to be instrumental to their larger representation in administration and high profile professions. In this way, the idea of equal citizenship can be fully realized from the feminist point of view. However, in practice, famous few women can be mentioned in politics such as Indira Gandhi and Margaret Thatcher. Some personalities acquiring women were stronger leaders who showed no hesitation to take firm decisions and also to use force in international conflicts. This led to some to say that the only difference between men and women in that is women were rarely in power. If they are, they behave like men. Similarly, men who appear compassionate or seek to negotiate away from conflict may accuse of being woman-like. The public-private dichotomy has played a vital role for suppression of women's rights. Now I will cast light on the international scenario that how political participation has worked as a tool of women empowerment. At International Conference on Population and Development in Cairo 1994, women empowerment was recognized as a cornerstone for effective politics. Empowerment of women in all spheres, in particular the political sphere, is critical for their advancement and the foundation of a gender equal society. Women political participation is premised on three fundamental and non-negotiable principles: the equality between men and women, women's right to the full development of their potential, and women's right to self-representation and self-determination. In empowerment, the key indeed is power. It is the power to assess, control, and make informed choices. In the sphere of international politics, the participation of women is still meager. However, some instances can be given of outstanding women internationally who are renowned for their advancement in politics. I will discuss some of the important personalities and their achievements. Specifically, Margaret Thatcher was the first woman Prime Minister of Great Britain. She has been called the Iron Lady for her stronger decisions. Sirimavo Bandaranaike became the Prime Minister of Sri Lanka in 1960 and was the first woman Prime Minister of the world. Her daughter Chandrika Bandaranaike Kumartunga is the first woman President of Sri Lanka. Golda Meir was one of the founders and the fourth Prime Minister of the State of Israel. Hillary Clinton is a leading candidate for the presidential election in United States in present times and earlier in 2008. She is also a famous lawyer and served as Foreign Secretary in US government. Aung San Suu Kyi is the leader of the movement for democracy in Myanmar. She has spent many years under house arrest. In 1991, she is awarded with the Nobel Peace Prize for her non-violent resistance to the military dictatorship in Myanmar. She has been released from her house arrest as a result of constant pressure from the general public. Benazir Bhutto was the Prime Minister of Pakistan and the first woman to be elected head of the Muslim country in modern times. She was killed before an election in December 2007 to remove her from the national politics of Pakistan. Begum Khalida Zia is the first woman Prime Minister of Bangladesh. German Chancellor Angela Merkel is also one of the strong women in contemporary international politics. By the end of 2005, Germany has elected its first woman chancellor. Happily, by the beginning of 2006, Chile and Liberia had elected their women presidents. Then in 2007, India and Argentina had the distinction of having women presidents. Sri Lanka, Israel, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh have the record of having women prime minister or head of the government. Thus, in Indian subcontinent from ancient time, women have played important role in leadership and statesmanship. Some women have excellent record of performance in various important positions like those in legislature, cabinets, bureaucracy, diplomacy, journalism, legal profession, fine arts, academics, scientific research and other fields. This record is enough proof of the potential of women's power. Now I will cast light on Indian scenario. In our country, though we find anomalies in Panchayati Raj where a woman is selected as Sarpanch, it is possible that her way of working is mostly influenced by a male member of her family. However, this tendency should be not taken for granted. Looking back to the Indian history, one can find that women have played a vital role in politics. Though before independence, Indian politics is not formally well structured as it exists in contemporary period. Still, for understanding the journey of political empowerment of women in India, we have to take into account the contribution of their earlier empowered women. Symbolically, some instances can be given in this context. Razia Sultana, who ruled over India from 1236 to 1240 AD, was the very first ruler in Muslim history. She became one of the most powerful rulers of Delhi Sultanate. Rani Lakshmibai of Jhansi organized her fight against the British conspiracy and torture. She lived a short life of 23 years only, gave a rousing call to the free princely state to be united for the freedom of the motherland. She moved the British Queen by her fierce leadership lead the movement of 1857 but did not surrender. She died while fighting against the British rulers. Similarly, Rani Durgavati and Rani Ahalyabai had also played significant role in pre-independence period. Indira Gandhi, at the age of 12, she had already joined the fight for India's independence and at an advanced age became the first woman Prime Minister of India. But she was brutally killed by terrorists. In modern times, the place of women in Indian politics reflect the opportunities and constraints that are associated with its democracy. Women have been key actors in the numerous social movements and non-governmental organizations that underlie women's vibrant civil society. India's most influential Prime Minister was Indira Gandhi, and her daughter-in-law Sonia Gandhi is the major force within the Congress party today. India's former President Pratibha Patil and several state leaders have been women, including Mayawati, who served 4 times as Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh. In India, numerous steps have been undertaken to provide constitutional safeguards and institutional framework for activities of women welfare. There has been various shifts in policy approaches during the last 40 years, from the concept of welfare in 1970 to development in 1980s and now to empowerment in 1990s and afterwards. The Government of India has declared the year 2001 as Year for Empowerment of Women. The concern for women's political equality in the India first emerged as political issue during the national movement in which women were active participants. Act of 1935 provided with the right to vote to all women over 21 years if they fulfilled the conditions of property and education. In post-independence period, women continued to play a significant role in the less conventional political activities such as environmental movement, anti-alcohol agitation and peace movements. It was only with the setting up of the Committee on the Status of Women in India in 1971 that the demand for greater representation of women in political institutions in India was taken up in a systematic way. The report Towards Equality 1974 reveals that political parties have tended to see women voters and citizens as appendages of the males. It also refers to the tokenism involved in having a few women rights on account of their dependent and minority status. In Indian scenario, with women's concern gaining prominence in both governmental and non-governmental organizations during 1980s, women issues became an important agenda for all political parties. While the subjugation of women in gaining attention everywhere, women's Organization will be forced to be choose their political allies within the existing political setup. Over a million women are represented in the three-tiered panchayats with the growth of a multi-party system since the early 1990s. Political parties have increasingly sought women's electoral support, and yet most women continue to lack effective political power in parties and the state. Women access to power is still mediated by their relationship to male kin and is often indirect and symbolic. Parties have done little to provide women access to the networks and resources that would enable them to ascend the ranks of party hierarchies. Hopefully, the continued administrative decentralization through programs like NHRM have demonstrated the Government of India's commitment to increasing the political participation of marginalized groups, especially poor women. The bureaucratic structure of India is very complex and messy, and because of that we find lot of departmentalization in ministries and various administrative posts. Women here can play a very effective role, and in fact women have been doing so, but the level of participation has decreased. Further, the 73rd and 74th Amendment to the Indian Constitution in 1992 and 1993 provided with 33% reservation for women in panchayats and urban local bodies. Women have acquired resources and development of skills which have enabled them to excel in managing development process. They have been able to articulate their priorities for basic needs and amenities such as food, drinking water, schools, health care centers, roads and security. Some instances can be given to prove that how political participation works as a tool of women's empowerment. Two detailed village surveys carried out in two districts, Birbhum in West Bengal and Udaipur in Rajasthan, found that women invest more than men in projects that meet community needs, which are water and roads in West Bengal and water in Rajasthan. In West Bengal, the panchayats are authorized to establish educational center. In Rajasthan, the panchayat can spend money on local infrastructures. In rural Punjab, over 4,500 women heading 2,446 panchayats have a common minimum program to work for uplift of the weaker section of society, adult literacy, pension for aged and the poor, better education and healthcare facilities, and the development of their village in their 5-year term. Another success story is the Belandar Gram Panchayat in Karnataka, where 6 out of 12 members are women. It is estimated that collection of taxes have given risen more than 7 times. With the devolution of responsibility to panchayat, the cost of the delivery of governmental services has gone down significantly and a system of transparency and accountability has developed. Women panchayat members have also taken up questions of gender inequality in the many places. In UP, 100 village leaders have banned the practice of giving or demanding dowry. In Akola district in Maharashtra, an all panchayat woman had a only liquor shop of the village closed down as it was resulting in the men of the village returning home drunk and beating their wives. In Madhya Pradesh, the Institute of Social Sciences New Delhi awarded a woman sarpanch in the Jamunia Taluk in district Sihor the Outstanding Woman Panchayat Leader Award for 2003. Her achievements included providing women with the land rights, distributing land to 95 couples under a housing scheme, and ensuring that the documents were in women's name. In Odisha, the Narayanpur Gram Panchayat under the leadership of its Sarpanch Rajeshwari Rao passed a resolution banning child marriage. Even families who had performed child marriages before the ban was put in place were not spared. The adult responsibles were required to pay a fine of 1,000 to be used for the child's education. The enactment of the 73rd and 74th constitutional amendments represented a milestone in the process of decentralization. The 73rd Amendment Act made the Gram Sabha, comprising all adults, the pillar stone of village governance. The amendment contains provisions for the reservation of 33% of elective seats for women in the village, block and district council and an equal number in the urban municipal councils. Consequently, an estimated 5 million women entered local politics directly or indirectly in the last 10 years. India's population consists of 15% scheduled caste and 7.5% scheduled tribes. As a result, 22.5% of seats are reserved for them, out of which one-third are for women. The reservation of seats in each state is proportional to their population. The reservation of seats for women, SCs and ST applied also to office bearers, so that one-third of sarpanch must be women. These amendments, as a strategy of affirmative action, served as a major breakthrough towards ensuring women's equal access and increased participation in political power structures. Now I will conclude that political participation is really a tool for women empowerment. It gives them the space in the political arena, make them the part of political decision making, make them the agent of change in the political, administrative, social, economic sphere, and also they can develop themselves and being the part of international peace processes, international decision making forums, and they can be a peace agent also. So empowerment is very crucial, and if politically they will be empowered psychologically, economically, socially, and also they can be a very serious citizen of a country who are politically active. They can be active participant of the political culture, and through this process, through this empowerment, they can play their crucial role in their crucial contribution for the development of their society, of their country, and they can be an agent of change. The change which is been focused in most of these studies, they have to be come out of the closed circuits, of the closed room, of the air conditioned room, and they have to actively work for the upliftment of the grassroots level women. And if women can become the agent of change, then they can work for the upliftment of the marginalized section, the marginalized women. And for that purpose, the educated women, the middle class women, they have to be politically active, they have to participate, they have to be educated, they have to be make the decisions, and they have to come forward for the voice of the voiceless. Thank you.